What is up guys, Andy Forest Steam Runner here, and today I'm giving you guys my first impressions of the Asics DYNABLAST. So there we go, 7.5 miles done and dusted in the Asics DYNABLAST. Today I'm excited to give you guys my first impressions of this shoe. But fear not, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because of course we don't just do first impressions here, we do speed tests, long run tests, and then after 100-mile tests. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. And not only that, but today we have a very special guest joining us. We have indeed the Shoetuber, that is Mr EddBud. He will be giving his thoughts later in the video as to his first impressions on this shoe. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll start with the tech. So I ended up going true to size in the Asics DYNABLAST, which is a UK size 13. We'll talk about sizing in the first impressions, but I did indeed go true to size. 309 grams or 10.9 ounces in the UK size 13. And we're talking about a 12mm heel to toe drop. Now, I probably didn't look hard enough, but I could not see the stack height on the Asics website. But from what I can see from doing other research, I think we're talking around about a 28mm stack in the heel and a 16mm stack height in the forefoot. And as always, what we'll do is we'll work our way from the heel counter area in and around the ankle collar, tongue, lacing, upper, midsole and outsole. And what I'll do my best to do is refrain from comparing this to the Novablast, because I will do a separate video comparing those two shoes. But ultimately the success of the Novablast is the main reason why we have ended up picking up this shoe, and the fact that I couldn't get the RC Elite in my size. So let's start in and around the ankle collar area. We've got a relatively rigid ankle collar section. I don't know if you can see here, we've got this little wedge here at the top. It's nice and flexible foam there, but just this section here, super firm with these triangular support things, built-in support there, just to give that heel counter a little bit of rigidity. But as I said, nice and soft foam up and around here, which was absolutely perfect for me. The fit was just very reminiscent of multiple Asics shoes that I've tried. It's just a comfortable brand to wear, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? They're just comfy. And we got the foam going around the top of the heel there, but again, like in most shoes, when you get down to the bottom, it's very thin. But this bumper padding up and around the top is very, very nice. Moving on to the tongue, it is a relatively thin tongue. It is not gusseted, which means it's not attached to the side walls of the shoes in the slightest. It's just a bog standard loose tongue, which works really well for me. And again, a very simplistic lacing system down here. I'm trying not to say it, but it's very similar to the Novablast. The lace is the tongue. All of this is very, very similar to the Novablast. But the main difference coming onto this shoe is the upper. We're using a knitted upper in this shoe, very reminiscent for me of the New Balance 1080 version 10. I loved the upper on that shoe, and I have to say, I will talk about this in my first impressions, but I really enjoyed the upper on this shoe as well. And this is basically a one-piece knitted upper, which goes all the way around. A few plastic overlays. We've got sort of this plasticky material that runs down the lining of the laces here. We've got the Asics logo in that plastic material, and then again these triangular supports here. A little bit firmer material in those, but it all feels very similar material that's used there. And then we move on to the midsole. we have, for me, the highly anticipated Flyte Foam Blast midsole, full one-piece midsole, not like the Road Blast where it was utilising two different types of foam, but I was looking for the next shoe on from the novablast that was going to use a full one-piece Flyte Foam midsole. And we have it in this shoe in abundance, 12mm stack height, as I said, 28 in the heel, so a decent stack here, but ultimately with this upper I think is where they've saved a lot of the weight because it's a heck of a lot lighter than the novablast. And then we move on to the outsole. We have that AHA outsole, Asics High Abrasion Rubber, I think it is the acronym for it, AHA, and they're using that, and again in a very, very similar pattern to what we've seen on the novablast in the high wearing areas with some exposed midsole in and around these areas here, but the AHA rubber is covering the majority of the outsole, making it a very nice and grippy shoe. So that's it for the test. Now on to the first impressions. How did I find this shoe? Did it live up to the hype that I had played it out in my head? And very quickly, we'll hear from Ed very, very shortly. As the point of recording this, I have not spoken to him about his thoughts. I have no idea what he's going to say about this shoe. So it's going to be very interesting to hear, well, maybe two very similar opinions or two different opinions. But that's the beauty of this multi-testing review. This is awesome. And if you like this format, let me know and we'll see if we can do some more of this in the future. But my first impressions, how did I find the shoe? It sadly did not live up to the hype that I wanted it to do. There's some positives about this shoe, but there are some negatives, and they're relatively big negatives. For me, if I'm completely honest with you, negatives that might impact future testing of this shoe. As you guys know, I do a speed test and a long run test thereafter, and I'm not 100% sure at this moment in time I'm going to be able to do those two sessions, workouts, runs, whatever you want to call them, next up in this shoe. Let me explain why. For me, what Asics has done on this top half of the shoe, I really, really enjoy. I enjoyed the lockdown, I enjoy the knitted upper. The knitted upper, as I said, feels very reminiscent of the 1080 version 10. I like that, it works well. The heel counter area, it feels like another good solid Asics shoe. Whilst being relatively light, the tongue, the lacing, everything, this portion of the shoe is really nice. But who watched my video, my last video about how and why I choose running shoes and what makes and breaks a shoe for me, it's the midsole. And believe it or not, this Flyte Foam Blast feels absolutely nothing like the Flyte Foam Blast that's in the Asics Novablast. It is much, much firmer than the Novablast. I would put money on the fact that it's a different sort of compound, is that the right word? A different sort of density is the word I'm looking for of Flyte Foam Blast in this thing. It is so much firmer. I used to be able to squish the Novablast really well, but I can barely squash this thing, and the 12mm drop absolutely killed my calves. I got to the end of the 7.5 mile run and my calves were hurting. I'd expect that from going from going down to a 0 drop, but not up to a 12 drop. And with that in mind, I was very, very aware of the volume of Flyte Foam Blast in the heel. I am a midfoot striker that rolls onto the forefoot, and I barely feel any of the foam that I run in any of the shoes in the heel. And I felt it. It's like running with a big wedge hanging out the back of the shoe. It was a very surreal feeling. And due to the fact that my calves were hurting quite a bit at the end of the run, that does make me think that it wouldn't be the most sensible idea to go and bang out a 15-20 mile run in the shoe and again go and do some kind of speed session, because I just don't think it's going to do my body any favours. I'm going to have to take my time with this thing, get some more easy runs into it before I then lean over to doing that sort of testing. So for me personally, the top half of the shoe is absolutely great. The bottom half sadly has been a little bit of a disappointment, but don't just hear from me, let's hear from Ed.
Hey guys, EddBud here, and I'm really proud to be helping Andy out today with a collaborative review of the Asics DYNABLAST. Andy, thanks for having me on the show today. I very much appreciate it. It's a real honour. Andy's been one of those YouTubers that I watch every day, and you should too. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, hopefully Andy will place a link down in the description. Please come over and join our strange corner of ShoeTube. Hopefully once all this virus business is over, I can do some running with Andy in person. It's going to be exciting. It will be fun, and it will certainly be a test of my fitness. Andy is a serious athlete. Okay, let's get to it. So what do I make of the Asics DYNABLAST? I had lots of hopes in my mind that this one would be a slight improvement on the Novablast. A shoe I kind of liked, I enjoyed after the 100 miles, but I felt there were a few little things that could be tinkered with and changed just to improve it. And fortunately, that's what I found in my first run. Upper-wise, it's a softer, almost knit-type material. Much more enjoyable to me than the stuff that was used on the Novablast upper. Certainly still quite a bit of room in the toe box here, and I'm getting that familiar Asics bunching here. I did have to cinch the laces quite tight to get a reasonable lockdown. Asics, we just don't need this much upper. Maybe make a wide version of the shoe with a little bit more upper. I mean, this would be good as the wide version, but perhaps you can construct one that just doesn't have quite as much toe box room. It's more height, really. I'd say the upper feels vastly different really to the Novablast, but in a positive way for me. I mean, I could have perhaps gone down half a size from my UK 11, but I think I would have had the incorrect length then. The colourway is awesome, don't you think? Night King blue, then this slate mountain grey, and then the fluffy white clouds. It was tough conditions out there today. Very cold, wet, windy, generally took a lot of inner strength to get out there. I did find the upper soaked up a little bit of moisture, but nowhere near as bad as the Fuel Cell RC Elite. That upper really is a sponge. Midsole wise, it's actually rather different to the Novablast. A very different experience. A more firmer and assured ride underfoot, which is kind of what I was hoping for really from the DYNABLAST. I felt a little more in contact with the terrain in the shoe today, and you certainly do feel that 12mm drop. It really did promote a midfoot to forefoot strike. These felt great around that tempo pace, 7 minutes 30 per mile, around about 4 minutes 40 per kilometre. I think this is a big improvement. I thought the Novablast was just too squashy, too unstable in the midsole. This has just the right balance, for me at least, between being a responsive shoe and also being a very cushioned shoe. Just right. I think this could be a great shoe for daily use. If you're looking for something that can also pick up the pace a little bit, you might have found your shoe. Just in hand, it's just so much firmer than the Novablast. Same foam, but it's not the same foam. I don't know how they come up with these different foams. Similar situation with New Balance, where you've got Fresh Foam and Fresh Foam X, but they're just really the same thing, and it's a shoe category. Here we've got Flyte Foam Blast, but it does feel completely different, this shoe, to the Novablast. So certainly for me, quite a versatile midsole, bit of daily use, some tempo use, job's a good one. Outsole wise, we've got an almost identical layout to the Novablast. I did find this one really slippery on mud and wet grass today, so do be warned. The rubber here does feel a little bit slicker though. It's a little bit more sticky, I guess. It was a real torture test today though. Those 10 miles, it was just soaking. I was saturated by the time I got back, and they held up pretty well. I'd suggest on road and pavement, no issues whatsoever in the rain. We know that this outsole rubber is very durable over time. The outsole rubber on Adidas shoes and also the DynaRide featured on the Fuel Cell RC Elite are still the champions though. They're still top of the tree on the old rubber department. Certainly very promising initial impressions from me at around £110. I don't think you can go too far wrong with this one. Certainly a reliable daily offering with a reasonable amount of versatility. I mean, this one's coming in lighter than the Novablast and the Pegasus 37 and the Energy 2 from Reebok. I guess downsides, there's quite a lot of padding here still. I don't think we need all of it, Asics. And the laces, a little short. I used a runner's knot today and I was having to mess about with the very ends of the laces trying to get a double knot sorted. So just give us a little bit more length there, Asics. So some positive initial impressions on the DynaBlast from Asics from me. Andy, thanks for having me on the channel. It's been a real pleasure. Maybe if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do check out the link in the description below. My name's EddBud, and I'll be seeing you.
So thank you very much, Ed, for doing a guest appearance on the video. I really appreciate it. If you have not checked out Ed's YouTube channel, you must head over there and subscribe. He is doing amazing things with his shoe reviews, reviewing some incredible shoes that I can't review because he's got a good normal size foot and I haven't. But he's doing amazing things, incredible shoe reviews. Make sure, as I said, you head over there, hit that subscribe button. So that's Ed's thoughts. You've heard my thoughts. For me, a slight disappointment. I don't really know what else to say other than the fact that I had high hopes for this shoe, and sadly it's not lived up to it, but we'll persevere, we'll get to 100 miles and we'll see where we are at from there. But don't expect a speed and long run test video from this thing just yet. I'm going to take my time. I think I'm going to compare it to the Novablast first because I have lots of thoughts there that I want to share with you guys. And finally, just before I sign off, just to let you guys know, I now am an affiliate with sportsshoes.com. So if you are looking for sports shoes or running shoes or any type of shoes or any apparel, anything, a link is in the description below. You guys know how affiliate links work by now. I do get a small commission on each sale, but it doesn't cost you any extra. All it does is help the channel out by hopefully increasing some funds so that I can invest more in shoes to review more for you guys. So that's it from me today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.